They're the second set of captives to be freed under a new ceasefire deal, the one Donald Trump insisted would occur before he was sworn in. The White House issued a statement this morning celebrating the hostages' release, while also stating the U.S. will keep on going with its great partner, Israel, to push for the release of all the remaining hostages and the pursuit of peace throughout the region. So as part of the deal, Israel released 200 Palestinians, 50 of them for each of the hostages, since all 4 women were soldiers. Joining me now, though, is Hugh Dugan. We're going to talk about this. He was President Trump's former acting special envoy for hostage affairs. We're also joined by Ruthie Blum. She's a former advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the co-host of Israel Undiplomatic. That's the podcast on JNS TV. So, Hugh, you worked with President Trump on a deal to bring the hostages home. Tell us how this finally got done. What brought it across the finish line this time, and what's the sour part of this deal?
Well, I worked for President Trump under the previous administration, so I have no. But I have to say the story involves something sad. There was supposed to be a civilian released in the deal, and they released soldiers. And in the hierarchy of hostage swaps, so to speak, a civilian is a much more important and valuable thing than the soldier. It's hard to say that out loud, but Hamas knew what they were doing. They were supposed to release a civilian, and that's not acting in true good faith under the agreement. And therefore, Israel has decided to slow down the return of Palestinians to North Gaza as planned. So there are some hiccups here. And we have to remember that President Trump said there would be hell to pay. He's paying close attention. The whole team in Washington is watching every move. And while we celebrate the return today of those 4 hostages, we have to realize that hell may still be paid if the terms are not met faithfully by Hamas.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Ruthie, we've heard that Hamas immediately came out of the shadows in Gaza when Israel started to withdraw. How concerned should Israel be?
Extremely concerned. From my perspective, this is an atrocious deal, perhaps one we had no choice but to make. It's atrocious because Hamas is treating it as a victory, and it's part of its propaganda victory. Perception is huge in the Middle East, you have to understand. But aside from that, you're absolutely right. Hamas terrorists not only are coming out of the woodwork, but new ones are being recruited all the time. And how are they being recruited? With the money that Hamas has earned by stealing all the humanitarian aid and selling it to Gazans. Furthermore, there is activity, terrorist activity along the southern border, in other words, Israel's southern border with Gaza. So we're seeing scenes familiar of October 6th, 2023. That's one thing. The other thing is that Hamas has not agreed to release all of the hostages. At the end of a 6-week ceasefire, they have agreed to release 33. Now, I ask you, what will happen if only 32 are released? Will Israel resume fighting? Not likely, given the pressure from inside Israel on the part of the families of the hostages, which is totally understandable. If I were among them, I would feel the same way. However, let's not forget all the hundreds of IDF soldiers, including my own son and son-in-law, who fought in Gaza to find those hostages and rescue them, and of the many, many who were killed, not to mention the many, many Israelis whose faces are going to be on future posters because of the release of these bloodthirsty terrorists.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, Hugh. It's tough to negotiate these kind of things when you have hostages who've been there so long. What do you think will go wrong? Because something's going to go wrong. What could go wrong in this? And is 50-1 the right kind of ratio? I mean, these are monsters. These are animals. They will likely go back and kill again.
It's sad that we talk about human beings as commodities, as poker chips in a game. We've got gotten too used to that. Basically, hostage taking is itself a declaration of war. And when you take an American hostage overseas, it might be happening in a war zone, but it is its own separate war. There's no equivalence here. These Palestinians are terrorists. They're not merely prisoners. These Israeli and American hostages are innocents. We have to get angrier about the fact that we're being accosted by hostage taking. We have to set up another movement like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We have to do something like that in the hostage realm. We're getting too used to this as a bargaining chip, and we're dealing with human lives. When those hostages were released today, the reports are they're in good condition. A hostage is never in good condition, and they may never be in a good condition in the future. So whatever we can do now to see some progress toward getting back to Abraham Accords, toward identifying another a governing regime post-Gaza in the region, and also to make hostage-taking consequential again, which I believe this administration will achieve to do.
Hugh Dugan, Ruthie Blum, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
All right, President Trump's